Well, maybe if he wasn't so pathetic, I wouldn't feel like I'm wasting my life. That's what I heard. That's what she said. And the worst part? She laughed after it. A short, bitter laugh. The kind that makes your spine lock up and your fingers go cold. The kind that lets you know this wasn't a slip-up. This was how she really felt. I hadn't planned to eavesdrop. I had just come back from picking up my own birthday cake. A sad little chocolate one I ordered for myself because Valerie said she had to work late. I was walking down the hallway, balancing the cake box, keys in hand, and I heard her voice through the apartment door. So I paused. Then I heard a second voice, a man's voice. One I didn't recognize. Deeper, confident, too comfortable. Hey, come on. You knew what this was. You don't owe him anything. She didn't answer right away. I could hear her moving. The creak of the couch cushion, the soft clink of a glass against wood. Then she said it. That sentence. That awful sentence. Maybe if he wasn't so pathetic, I wouldn't feel like I'm wasting my life. That's when I froze. Completely. Cake box still in my hands. My key halfway into the lock. And when she laughed, I forgot how to breathe. Then silence. Then the sound of her walking toward the door. I panicked and slowly turned the key the rest of the way. I stepped inside like I hadn't heard anything. She jumped when she saw me. "Oh, you're home already," she said, cheeks flushed. But not from surprise. From guilt. I didn't say anything. I just placed the cake on the counter. She looked at the box, then at my face, then back to the box. I didn't mean it like that," she stammered. "I love you, okay? That was just venting. I've been stressed. You know how I get when I'm overwhelmed." But I couldn't hear her anymore. Because while she was scrambling for excuses, I was watching the hallway mirror behind her. The one that showed the reflection of the living room couch. And in it, I saw a man's jacket draped over the armrest. Not mine. I didn't say a word about the jacket. Not then. Not right away. I just stared at it while she kept explaining things I hadn't asked. That's the thing about guilty people. They try to fill the silence before you even accuse them of anything. Like maybe if they drown you in enough rushed half-truths, you'll forget the one thing they're actually hiding. She reached for me, like she could just touch my arm and make it all go away, but I stepped back. I mumbled something about needing to use the bathroom. Truth was, I needed a second to breathe, to think, to figure out if I was overreacting or finally waking up to something that had been rotting under the surface for longer than I wanted to admit. Inside the bathroom, I locked the door, not because I thought she'd barge in, but because I felt exposed, like my whole body had been split open from the inside. I turned on the faucet just to mask the sound of me whispering to myself, "Don't cry. Don't be that guy. Just hold it together for 10 more minutes." I opened my phone, hands trembling like I'd had too much coffee, and pulled up our apartment's shared smart system. She never bothered learning the tech side of things. She always said it gave her a headache. I was the one who set up the voice logs, and the security cams, and the motion alerts. There it was. 7:18 p.m., front door unlocked. 7:21 p.m., living room movement. 7:33 p.m., unknown voice detected. Mail. It had logged the whole thing. I didn't even need to listen to the audio. My gut already knew. But I tapped the file anyway. And there it was. That same voice I'd heard from the hallway. The one that didn't belong in our home. He was laughing. Bold. Casual. Calling her Val. Shortened. Intimate. And she was laughing too. I shut it off before I heard anything more. I walked out of the bathroom like a zombie and found her in the kitchen. She had already opened the cake box. No candles. No singing. Just her standing there with a knife, cutting herself a piece like she was slicing through a normal day. "You want some?" she asked like none of this had happened. I looked her dead in the eyes. "Whose jacket is that?" She blinked. And blinked again. Then her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Just a stupid half-breath. Like her brain was buffering, trying to download a lie fast enough to cover the moment. Finally, she said, "Oh, it's Derek's. From work. He came by to drop off some files I needed. I told you my workday was crazy." Derek. I'd never heard that name before. I asked her once if any guys worked in her department, and she told me it was all girls and one old dude who smells like glue. Did he drop the files off and sit on the couch? I asked. Did he forget his jacket while he was, what, helping you brainstorm reports over wine? She went pale. "I didn't mean for it to be like this," she whispered. "You're twisting everything." I laughed. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, it wasn't. But because in that moment, something in me cracked. Like a wire snapped in my chest, and all the weight I'd been dragging around for months suddenly felt like it had somewhere to go. And then she said it again, that same panic line as before. I didn't mean it like that. I love you. Funny how she only remembered to say that after I caught her. I didn't touch the cake. I didn't touch her. I didn't even sit down. I stood there like a stranger in my own kitchen while she pretended this was just a misunderstanding that could be brushed off with the right words. I don't know what I expected. Maybe a confession, maybe even an apology. But what I got instead was a performance. A messy, panicked monologue about how I was being paranoid, about how I always made things bigger than they were. You do this every time I have male coworkers, she snapped, arms folded like I had betrayed her. You invent things. You build up these stories in your head until I'm the villain and you're the poor, neglected husband. It's exhausting. That word, exhausting. She kept using it like I was a burden she couldn't wait to set down. And in that moment, I realized something that made my stomach twist. She wasn't trying to win me back. She was trying to wear me down, to make me doubt myself, gaslight me into thinking this was all my imagination. But I had receipts now, literal ones. I pulled up the transaction from our shared credit card. Restaurant, 2 entrees, expensive wine. 1 hour before I got home, I held up my phone. Did Derek drop off the files at a wine bar? Her face fell, and she knew it. She knew the lie was dead. But instead of finally telling the truth, she doubled down in the most insulting way possible. You check my transactions? Are you serious right now? That's a complete violation of trust. I blinked. Trust? She didn't flinch. You spying on me like some obsessive little freak? That's not normal, Edgar. No wonder I needed space tonight. That was the moment I knew we were done. Not because she cheated, not even because she lied, but because she genuinely believed I was the villain for catching her. I asked her calmly, "How long has it been going on?" She scoffed. "There is nothing going on." I repeated myself. Same tone. No yelling. No drama. Just how long? She hesitated. She looked down. Her fingers clenched the edge of the counter. And then she muttered it under her breath like if she said it fast enough, it wouldn't hurt as bad. 3 months. The room got cold. Not physically, but something inside me just shut down. 3 months. 90 days. 13 weekends. Countless nights where I made her dinner, or rubbed her feet, or listened to her vent about how exhausting her job was while she was actually draining herself for someone else. I nodded slowly. She looked up like she was trying to gauge whether I'd explode. But I didn't. I just reached into my pocket, pulled out the little box I had been carrying all day, and placed it on the table between us. It was her birthday gift to me. I bought it myself. A small engraved compass with the words, "Wherever life takes us, we'll always find our way back." I didn't say a word. I just left it there. She stared at it, then back at me. "Edgar." I walked past her and into the bedroom. I didn't slam the door. I didn't pack a bag. I just sat on the edge of the bed and let the silence crash over me like a wave. And then, from the hallway, I heard her whisper the same words again. Not to me. Not out loud. I didn't mean it like that. "I love you." But love shouldn't feel like a knife in your back. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even try. She hovered outside the bedroom for maybe half an hour, pacing, pretending to tidy things that didn't need tidying. Like if she made enough noise I'd open the door and beg her to explain. But I didn't. I just stared at the ceiling, counting the number of lies I now knew about, and wondering how many more were still hiding. The next morning she was gone by the time I got up. No note. No apology. Just her half-drunk glass of wine still on the counter, and the faint scent of whatever perfume she always puts on before work meetings. The expensive kind I bought her for Christmas last year. She hadn't worn that scent in weeks. Not for me, at least. I don't know what came over me. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I was running on fumes and spite, and something deeper. That feeling you get when your stomach already knows something your brain refuses to believe. I walked downstairs and sat in my car for 15 minutes, just staring at the steering wheel, wondering if I was the crazy one. Then I saw her car parked 2 rows over in our shared lot, and that idea slipped away like smoke. I walked over and tried the door. Locked. But I had a copy of her keys from when I used to leave sweet notes on her dashboard before date nights. Funny how things change. My hands shook a little when I unlocked it, like I was about to cross a line I couldn't uncross. But I opened the door anyway. The first thing I saw was a receipt on the passenger seat. Same restaurant, same wine, same night, but it wasn't from this week. It was from last month. So not a one-time thing. Not a drunken slip. This was routine. I sat in her seat, staring at that stupid piece of paper like it had teeth. I opened the glove box without thinking. Just reflex. There was a card inside. A birthday card. Not for me. It had a name scribbled on the envelope, D. And inside, in her handwriting, I read, "You make me feel seen. Like I'm alive again. I don't know what this is, but I know it feels more real than anything I've had in years." My stomach turned. And the worst part? She hadn't even bothered to hide it. Not really. That glove box is where she keeps napkins and expired insurance cards. She didn't care if I found it. Maybe part of her wanted me to. Maybe she thought if I found it on my own, she wouldn't have to do the hard part, saying it out loud. I took the card and walked back upstairs. When she came home that evening, acting like nothing had happened, she tossed her keys on the counter and asked, "You want to order in tonight?" I placed the card gently on the table. She froze, then walked closer, saw the envelope, flipped it open. Her face didn't register shock or regret, just defeat. "You went through my car," she said. "You wrote him a love letter," I replied. She didn't argue. She didn't cry. She just sat down, slowly, like the air had been punched out of her. "I was going to end it," she whispered. "With him?" I asked. "No," she said without hesitation. "With you." And that shattered something inside me I didn't know could still break. After she said she was planning to end it with me, something in the room shifted. The silence between us wasn't just uncomfortable, it was poisonous. Like breathing it in was starting to choke me. She sat there without blinking, like she was daring me to explode, to scream, to cry. But I didn't do any of that. I just stared at her, at the woman who had slept beside me every night while silently planning her exit. "Why not just say something?" I asked, barely recognizing my own voice. "If you were going to leave me, why wait?" She shrugged, like it wasn't a big deal. "It wasn't the right time," she said. "You've been fragile lately, Edgar. I didn't want to break you." Break me, as if what she had already done wasn't enough. The next 3 days were a blur. She didn't leave. She didn't pack. She just acted normal, like we were roommates, not a married couple crumbling from the inside. She still poured her coffee, still watched her shows, still left dishes in the sink like nothing mattered. I think, in her mind, once the truth was out, everything would somehow go back to manageable. Maybe even easier now that I knew. But I couldn't stop thinking about him. D. Who was he? Where did he work? What kind of man sits on my couch, drinks my wife's wine, and lets her write love notes to him while I'm buying steaks for our anniversary? So, yes, I did the thing you're not supposed to do. I followed her. One morning she left earlier than usual. Said she had a presentation downtown and needed to beat traffic. I waited 10 minutes, grabbed my coat, and tailed her car. I kept 2 cars behind. I was so paranoid she'd notice I was sweating through my shirt by the time we hit the freeway. She didn't go downtown. She drove to a townhouse in a quiet residential block, the kind of place with perfect little hedges and identical mailboxes. She pulled into the driveway like she'd done it 100 times, like it was second nature. And when the garage opened, I saw him. The man from the reflection in the mirror. Tall, shaved head, confident shoulders. He walked out barefoot, in sweatpants, like he wasn't expecting company. And then he smiled, the kind of smile that said, "I know exactly who's pulling up in my driveway." She got out of the car, no hesitation, and walked straight into his arms. They kissed. Right there. In the open. No shame. I almost forgot how to breathe. I had to bite my sleeve to stop myself from making any noise. I backed my car out and turned the corner, parked 3 blocks away, and sat there for an hour, shaking, asking myself over and over, what the hell just happened to my life? When she came home that night, I didn't say anything. Neither did she. But she smelled different. His cologne, his laundry detergent, something. And I realized then, she never planned to end it. Not with him. Not with me. She wanted me to end it. So she wouldn't have to feel guilty. So she could tell her friends, he gave up on us. I tried. So she could play victim while I carried the shame of being too sensitive, too needy, too weak. But not this time. If she wanted me to walk away, she'd have to watch what that actually looked like. After what I saw at that townhouse, I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I didn't even mention it. I let her come home. I let her ask what I wanted for dinner. I let her pour me a glass of water and leave it next to me like she always did, like I was still some soft, predictable ornament in the background of her life. But that night, when she was asleep, I took her wedding ring off the nightstand and dropped it into the freezer. I wanted to see how long it would take her to notice it was gone. Spoiler, she didn't. The next morning, I told her I'd be working from the office for the rest of the week. Change of pace, I said. She barely looked up from her phone. That gave me everything I needed to know. She didn't care where I was, because she assumed she knew where I wasn't. She thought I was still in the dark, that I was still the same man who bought his own birthday cake and believed the lies she fed him with a smile. But I was done waiting for closure, so I started moving in silence. First, I copied everything, every bank statement, every phone bill, every cloud file. I pulled location data from old photos she forgot to delete. Dozens of them. Restaurants, hotels, even one taken in my hoodie at someone else's apartment. I printed them all, slid them into a folder, and tucked it inside a drawer she never touched, the one under the guest bed where I kept all our old tax records. I didn't need her to find it yet. I just needed it to exist. Then I called my old friend Nathan, the one she hated. She used to call him that divorced pessimist who thinks all women cheat. Funny how right he turned out to be. Nathan's brother was a lawyer, and within 2 days, I had everything ready. Not to serve, not yet, but to be ready. To strike the second she thought she'd won. She still hadn't noticed the missing ring. She still hadn't noticed I stopped saying, "I love you." But what she did notice was the silence. That Thursday night, she came into the bedroom while I was lying in bed reading. No small talk, no makeup on, just her and that cautious expression, like she had wandered into a room that didn't feel like hers anymore. "You're quiet lately," she said. I didn't answer. She sat down on the edge of the bed. "I meant what I said the other night. I just need time, Edgar. Things have been blurry, confusing, but I'm not trying to hurt you." That last part almost made me laugh. Not trying to hurt me? That's like driving a nail into someone's chest and telling them you were just testing the hammer. I waited, let the silence stretch just long enough to be uncomfortable. Then I said, "I know about Derek." Her mouth opened, then shut, then opened again, but I didn't let her talk. "I saw you," I continued, calm as ice. "At his house. You kissed him in broad daylight. You said you were going downtown." She didn't deny it. She just looked tired. And then she said, "So what now?" That was it. No apology, no begging, no fake tears. Just so what now? And that's when I knew she wasn't sorry. She was just afraid of losing control. After she asked me, "So what now?" I didn't answer. Not fully. I just looked at her and said, "I guess that depends on you." I wanted her to think the door was still open, that maybe, just maybe, I was one of those husbands who'd cling to the edge even after she'd burned the floor beneath us. But I wasn't. Not anymore. I had already packed the parachute. I was just waiting for the right altitude. That weekend, she acted different. It was so clearly forced it was almost insulting. She woke up early, made coffee, cooked breakfast for the first time in what felt like a year. She asked if I wanted to take a walk. A walk, like she hadn't been sneaking around for months. I played along, smiled when I needed to, nodded. I even kissed her on the cheek once, just to keep the illusion going. She wasn't trying to repair the marriage. She was trying to avoid being left. There's a difference. A big one. I'd already opened a private bank account. I had already filed a change of address form to my brother's apartment, just in case. The night before everything would change, I stood in our bedroom, the same one where we used to dream out loud, and stared at her while she slept. Her ring was still gone, still not noticed. That said more than she ever could. The next morning, I woke up early, earlier than her. I brewed coffee, cleaned the kitchen, folded laundry. I made everything look normal. And then, as she showered, I left. Quietly. No yelling, no bags, no notes. Just the calm, cold finality of a man who had already grieved the relationship and was simply stepping over the grave. I walked 2 blocks to the law office. Nathan was already there, waiting with a manila envelope and a look that said, "It's really time now, huh?" It was. The papers were filed at 9:03 a.m. At 10:27, she called me. I didn't pick up. At 10:32, she texted, "Where did you go? I thought we were doing lunch." At 11:10, my lawyer called and confirmed she'd been served. At 11:12, she called again, this time from a number I didn't recognize. I picked up. She was crying. I said nothing. She said my name like she was drowning in it. I still said nothing. Then she shouted, "You didn't have to humiliate me like this." I finally replied, my voice flat. You humiliated yourself. I just stopped covering it. She went quiet. I could hear her breathing, frantic and shallow. I told you I was confused, she said, desperate now. You said you understood. I understood perfectly, I told her. That's why I'm gone. I hung up. No drama. No screaming match. Just silence. The kind that weighs more than words ever could. And while she stood in our apartment, probably looking around at all the things that were now hers alone, I stood at my brother's place with a suitcase, a new bank account, and the freedom she never thought I had the strength to take back. But she wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. Because later that night, someone else called. And what he said changed everything. The call came just after midnight. I was sitting on the balcony of my brother's apartment, a blanket around my shoulders and a half-finished bottle of cheap wine next to me. I hadn't cried that day. That was the win I gave myself. No tears. Not anymore. And then my phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to. At first, I thought it was a prank or a scam, but then he said, "Is this Edgar?" I recognized the voice immediately. It was him, Derek, the man from the townhouse. The one she gave herself to while telling me she was just working late. I didn't say anything. I just let the silence press down, the same way I had with her. He hesitated, then sighed. "Look, I didn't mean to call you. I meant to call Valerie. I guess your number was next to hers. But maybe it's a good thing I did." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. He kept talking anyway. "I didn't know she was married at first," he said. "She told me she was separated, that it was basically over. I swear, I wouldn't have. Look, I know that doesn't matter to you, but you should know. I ended it. Tonight." I closed my eyes. Let the wind hit my face. "I found out she lied to me about you," he continued. "Said you were some bitter ex who couldn't move out, but you were still buying her gifts, still showing up, still loving her. I saw the anniversary card you left on the table last week. She didn't even open it." He paused, then added, "You deserve better, man. I'm sorry." I hung up without a word. Not out of anger, just peace. It was over. Not just the marriage, but the fog, the self-doubt, the guilt she made me feel for loving her too much. I didn't sleep that night, but I didn't need to. I sat there as the sun came up, watching the sky go from black to gray to blue. And for the first time in months, my chest didn't feel heavy. It felt light. In the weeks that followed, I filed everything. Moved into a new place. Quiet. Small. Mine. I got promoted, too. Turns out when you stop drowning emotionally, you actually start showing up for yourself. I started therapy. I reconnected with my sister. I even joined a hiking group. I still flinch when I hear certain songs. Still get a pit in my stomach when I pass our old coffee shop. But that's healing. It comes slow, and it comes honest. As for her, she tried calling again. Sent messages. Apologies. Blame. Regret. Offers to talk. I didn't respond. Not because I was angry, but because I had nothing left to give her. She burned through it all. And one morning, as I walked out of the bakery near my new apartment, a stranger smiled at me. The kind of smile that makes your heart skip. I smiled back. We talked about croissants. I made her laugh. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like a man dragging a broken heart behind him. I felt like someone free.